Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the one and only and amazing Anna Kelly. Hi, Anna.
Hi, I'm always doing amazing when I'm talking to you.
That is awesome. Well, hey, let's have an adult conversation about Airbnb, and it could be VRB or nightly rentals.
Sure.
In my opinion, as someone who's never done them, so again, I stand back and just respond to what I hear from others. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I think it's an amazing business. I think we've had vacation rentals for decades. So it has a track record of working amazing. Folks like you who spend the money and you get the Park Place and Boardwalk quality stuff are going to continue to do amazing. I think Airbnb, probably thanks to bigger pockets, right? The whole it's easy, it prints money, just attracted a lot of newbies who overpaid, got spoiled in the pandemic when it had a crazy demand. And now I hear more and more people talk about nothing booked for 2 weeks, nightly rates crashing, too much competition, and some real pain going on. So I think Airbnb, we've talked about it a couple of times. I think it's going to hurt some people who don't have the right quality and right running a business. But I thought I'd get your opinion since you have some.
Great. Yeah. So I have 11 short-term rentals right now, and I've had more that I've sold in the past. So I do have some experience with this. And one of the big things that we've seen over the last 2 years, Michael, is to your point about bigger pockets and talking about you can't lose with Airbnb. You listen to video number 1, we talked about this irrational exuberance at the top of the market. When everybody goes in, it's kind of risky, right? And then when everybody starts to go out, everyone fears that the bottom's falling out and it's going to last there forever. So what happened is, and I read an interesting article that I agree with, that had a lot of data behind it last week, is that part of the feeling that demand is gone, right? And that all of a sudden people aren't booking is true, that demand has come down because inflation has been hard on people. And now they're fearing recession and they're starting to tighten up a little bit on vacations. But the other big side of this is there's been a massive increase in supply. So many new investors ran in the last year after everything with travel bounced back after pandemic, that they bought at these super low interest rates. And they thought, wow, whatever they did in 2020, 2021, that's what they're going to keep doing. So lots of people bought. So what's happened is it's not so much that actual rentals are down, that nightly rentals are down. It's that the number of rental units has gone significantly up. So every owner is seeing less rental demand. It's not because nobody's renting, it's because nobody's renting theirs when they've got 4 or 5 more like it in another market. So that's happened in a lot of these really attractive markets that have historically done well. You have a diminishing demand and an increasing supply, which makes each person get less of that, rental that's left. And so that's what's happening. What I would say, and I've said this in a couple of, videos going back a year, is that you have to understand that when you buy a vacation rental, you look at averages, right? You don't just say whatever it did last year, that's what it's going to do forever. Because we have to understand, was there something about last year that was different than the year before and the year before and the year before? And the answer was yes, there was a lot of things different. So anytime that I've gone in to buy a short-term rental, and hopefully this will help you in looking at purchasing one, plus help you to figure out how you hold it, right? Is I've gone back and said, is this area historically a place that people have vacationed for generations? Like the demand is going to stay. I know the demand is going to be lumpy. And some years I'm going to make a killing, and some years I'm not going to do as well as the average, depending on what's going on in the economy and how much people are spending on vacations. But you have to buy these things with a view to the long run. And unfortunately, people bought them thinking, I have to have exactly the same number of nights at exactly the same rental in order to make my payments on my mortgage, my taxes, my insurance, all of your costs of operating. And unfortunately, they were too lean. Their numbers were way too aggressive. And so I bought my property saying I can handle a quarter of the occupancy easily in any season and still break even, right? So you have to basically say, what are the long-term averages? Is this going to make sense as a long-term hold? And if you've thought that way, and even if you didn't, but you're thinking that way now, don't panic when everyone else is panicked. Don't think that the vacationers are over. We have vacationed for generations, and people will continue to vacation. You just have to weather a little bit of pain. Take advantage of that asset that you have, which is your mortgage. You bought a mortgage that is at half of what rates are today. Just having the mortgage is an asset. So I look at investments and I say, I have an acronym called IDEAL investment, IDEAL. I for income, D for depreciation, E for equity, paying down your mortgage, A for appreciation, which could be natural or forced, and L for leverage, right? When I look at my investments, I say, hey, my income may be down for a year or two, but am I still getting equity pay down? Did I take advantage of bonus depreciation? Is leverage helping me? Do I have a good mortgage that's an asset? And do I think this thing will go up in value over time? And if the answer is yes to those other four things, don't let lack of income for a year or two convince you to sell an asset that gives you a great return, total return, even if the cash on cash return is low.
I think that's all great stuff. And again, I think Airbnb done right is an amazing business. You've shown that time and time again. I do think there are some of you that need to look yourself in the mirror who, because this is the conversation I have seen from others, right? Anna Kelly buys an oceanfront property or golf or whatever it is. Somebody else comes behind Anna because we just love what Anna does, but they don't have the stroke that Anna has. Well, you know what? Anna's got on the beach. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy something half a mile away over the freeway next to the cemetery because I can afford it. Well, that may not be the reason that you want to buy an Airbnb, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of people that let their pocketbooks buy a property and then they thought Airbnb was the right answer for that property, which is not the case. I think a lot of people down selected because of price and location. I think Bigger Pockets made it seem like the easiest thing in the world the last couple of years because it was. But now the tide has turned. Too much supply, right? Nightly Airbnb bookings are actually up. The problem is the supply is, up more, which means people are getting less. And I think what's going to happen with Airbnb is, and this was Omar, right? People go back to Omar's playlist. The video went live this morning. He's turning all his Airbnbs into monthly furnished rentals because again, he's looked at his income down because competition went up, and he's like, hey, I turned this into a long-term rental because I got 3.5% money. I'm going to make more money with no headaches, right? One of the things you have with Airbnb is every weekend you have turnover and you have headaches and you have whiny people and people complain. And he's like, I stick a tenant in there. I collect a check. I'm done. And one of them, he's got a 6-month prepay. So he's like, of course, let's go. So I think there's a lot of people that are going to be forced, and actually probably a wise business move, to turn their Airbnbs are not performing into just furnished rentals, because most Airbnbs are furnished. So
absolutely. Yeah. And the way that you weather economic storms in any property is you have to ask yourself, if things are changing, what are my other strategies to continue to hold the asset, right? So you go through what other things can I do to continue to make money and not lose the property? And then if you can't find those things or they don't work, then you consider selling, right? And you cut your losses. But with a short-term rental, you can put a long-term renter in for a 12-month period. Every property I bought, with the exception of one oceanfront property that I paid a lot knowing that one day I'm going to live there. And even if I didn't make money on it for a while, I was going to be okay, right? With the exception of that one property, every single other property, 10 of them that I have, if I put a long-term rental in there at the average rental rate, I would at least break even or make a little bit of money, right? So first, look at month-to-month corporate furnished rentals. Go on Furnished Finder, which is where traveling nurses look for furnished rentals. Business travelers look for furnished rentals. Put them on there. It's actually free. You don't have to pay the fees that you pay VRBO and Airbnb. And if you can't find a longer term corporate rental, then look for, an average rental. If you can't find that, do something with your Airbnb that makes it stand out. And this is another thing I'm a big believer in. Every single property that I've bought has some type of unique value proposition, meaning it's prettier, it has a better location, the decorations are nicer. I offer certain things that maybe other people don't, like paper towels and paper plates and paper cups and nice toiletries and things like that. So you have to do something to make yours stand out. The other thing is get professional pictures. I see too many that don't have professional pictures, and people are just looking at pictures and making an impression. Get a professional photographer, make it super, super nice, offer amenities, give free tickets and experiences to something. So for example, I'm in Hershey. We have Hershey Park nearby. I could give 2 free tickets to Hershey Park. That's like $120 value. Well, I'm going to get a much better rate and have more people rent for me if they get something for free, right? So there's all kinds of things that you can do to hold it. And if you find out, you know what, I was really dumb. I made a poor decision. I way overpaid. I can't break even and I have nothing and set aside in savings to let myself float. Then you think about, how can I sell it without losing my shirt, right? Think about selling it on owner financing. Sell it to someone else, maybe that wants to buy it as their primary home, right? Maybe think about offering them seller financing where they're still paying you an income. It's at least covering your mortgage, but now you get rid of the taxes, the insurance, the Airbnb fees, and all of those things. So you just have to get creative. Don't panic and say, how can I make the best of this investment and maximize return, even though it didn't work out quite the way that I hoped that it would?
Yeah. So the other thing I kind of close with is one of the things, Anna, that I do when I still go to real estate meetups and talk. And the reason I do that is actually the Q&A session at the end. I always want to know where the audience's head is at.
Yes.
Three or 4 years ago, everybody was a syndicator. A year and a half ago, everybody was Airbnb or Airbnb arbitrage. When I see that, I run. It's like if all the newbies are doing it, they think it's easy. I'm going the other direction because I know there's a lot of pain coming. Do you see kind of that? They just, anytime they think real estate is easy and there's an easy button, that makes me so nervous.
Yeah. You know, the economy's made it fairly easy for us until the last year. It really has. And, you know, going back to video 1, you've got to understand that economies go in cycles and you're kind of caught in this really massive shift that we haven't seen since 2009, right? And so people buy with short-sightedness. And that's the thing that drives me the most crazy is people go with whatever the flavor of the month is, right? This is how everybody feels. So this is what's happening in real estate. So that's what I'm going to do. I do not believe in buying properties for short term and hoping that things just go well. I believe that everything that you buy, you should buy with a view to at least a few years out and hopefully a decade. And you say, where's the economy going to go in the next 3 to 5 years? Then what about the next 10 years? How can I maximize where we are in the cycle? Are we at the bottom and we have plenty of time to go back up? Or are we at the top and things are going to come back down? So educate yourself on market cycles and think like a long-term investor. Don't panic to buy or panic to sell. Fear of missing out and fear of, losing everything are both kind of irrational fears in real estate. If you just do the work, you know what a good deal looks like you say all the time, and you do deals that make sense, then just plan to weather those things and have multiple strategies so that over the long term, you're really happy with your investment. Don't do what everybody else is doing, to your point.
Yeah. Anna, where can people find you?
You can find me here every week on my playlist. You can find me on social media at Anna Kelly, REI Mom. And if you're interested in coaching or masterminds, you can find me at reimom.com.
Thank you so much.